There are chapters of Earth's past that science politely avoids. Times when life didn't just evolve, it lunged forward, broke every boundary, and built monsters no rulebook could explain. Not the T-Rex. Not the Velociraptor. Those are late arrivals. The real nightmares came earlier. In a long, hot age when the planet seemed cursed from core to cloud. The Jurassic. Picture a world that never sat still. The ground shook. Oceans heaved. Skies carried ash like a season, not a storm. Forests grew thicker than cities. Rivers ran darker than night. And inside that pressure cooker, predators became something else. Bigger. Faster. Stranger. Here's the unsettling part. These horrors weren't supposed to be possible. Not with gravity. Not with oxygen limits. Not with the tidy pace of evolution we like to imagine. Yet they existed. In bone. In teeth. In fossilized scars. Proof that Earth can become a machine for making nightmares. Tonight, we'll walk back into that machine. Into firelit forests and blackened seas. Into the lairs of forgotten apex beasts with jaws like guillotines and wings like shadows. We'll follow the oxygen paradox that supercharged biology. We'll stumble on an extinction event almost no one talks about. And we'll look up, beyond the clouds, to the cosmic crosshairs that may have aimed at Earth and fired. Because the Jurassic wasn't just a chapter. It was a warning etched into stone and starlight. And if those conditions return, and some say they already are, what exactly do we think is going to rise out of the dark? Ready? Let's open the door. When Earth became a killing ground, the Jurassic begins not with peace, but with rupture. The supercontinent is tearing apart. Pangea groans like a wounded animal. Rifts open, swallowing forests and spitting out new seafloors. Volcanoes draw red lines across the horizon, fountains of fire sketching the future map of the world. Stand there for a moment. Feel the ground. It never stops humming. Earthquakes aren't disasters, they're the daily weather. Ash falls like black snow, sifting into riverbeds, layering every leaf with a fine, choking memory. But where we'd expect ruin, we get abundance. Heat drives evaporation. Moisture feeds storms. Rain feeds forests. Conifers rise like towers. Cycads and ginkgos spread in carpets beneath. Ferns unfurl like flags over damp soil. The air itself is heavy, thicker, warmer, richer. Every breath feels like drinking. This is a greenhouse world. A pressure cooker. And pressure changes everything. On land, the hunting grounds stretch from tree-shadowed floodplains to dune seas that shift and sing in the wind. Packed trails lace through the undergrowth. Footprints fill with water and harden into stone. The night carries the sound of something big moving through cycads, slow and certain, as if the forest answers to it. In the oceans, darkness yawns. Inland seas and new coastlines create a maze of shallow lagoons, deep basins, and steep continental shelves. Predators learn the edges, where light ends and surprise begins. Cold seeps, warm currents, strange chemistries, the menu is chaos. The table is set for monsters. Above, the sky becomes a second ocean. Thermals rise from volcanic plains, lifting winged hunters into effortless patrol. The air is a highway, a hunting lane, a battlefield. You never look up for comfort here. You look up to count shadows, and hope they're moving away. And in all three theaters, land, sea, and sky, the same rule holds: the planet rewards aggression. It favors speed, cunning, ambush, and endurance. It builds apex predators like sculptures of fear. Not the celebrities of pop culture. Not the late Cretaceous names that dominate posters. These are older terrors. Leaner. Hungrier. Designed by a world that pushes everything to the edge. Earth, for a time, becomes a gladiator ring. And the crowd is silent. Because the crowd is the planet itself. The forgotten apex beasts. Everyone knows the showstopper names. But they belong to a different era. In the Jurassic, the crown is worn by predators too often left in footnotes. Start with the seas. A shadow moves beneath the waves longer than a bus, broad as a barge, driven by flippers that scull the water like oars. Liopleurodon. Think of a submarine with instincts. Jaws hinged like a trap. Teeth designed for purchase, not ceremony. It doesn't chase. It appears. From the gloom. From behind a veil of bubbles. The surprise is the point. It isn't just size that terrifies. It's confidence. The way a master knows its craft. On land, imagine a clearing. Wind presses the ferns flat for a heartbeat, and the forest exhales. Something steps out, tall as a truck, balanced on legs that flex like coiled steel. Allosaurus. Built for the rush. Not a lonesome tyrant, but a tactician. The body talks of speed more than weight. Long tail, lean torso, claws that catch and hold. One hunter can do damage. Several moving like a practiced unit? That's not a hunt. That's an execution. And then there are the rule breakers. Herbivores with weapons that look like bad jokes told by evolution. The ancestors of the later side-clawed line, gentle diets hiding in bodies edged with knives. You don't need venom if you can write a warning in the air with a 9-foot claw. Come closer. See what happens. Now walk south. Farther. Farther still, into the latitude we call Antarctica. Not white. Not dead. But green. Forested. A place of long twilight and long dawn. There, a predator stalked with a strange crest, a bone banner rising from its skull, Cryolophosaurus. Crowned. As if the land itself marked it as something singular. Imagine a roar that carries across a snowy grove in winter, when the world goes quiet, and something with a crown answers the silence. Above, the air is not safe. Pterosaurs own it. Wingspan like a room. Nerves tuned to gust and eddy. Necks like whips, heads like spears, eyes that read the wind the way a chess player reads a board. They aren't awkward reptiles with wings. They're aerial specialists. The first to truly make the sky their territory. Think of a cliff line packed with watchers, waiting for a shadow in the surf, or the glint of scales in a river. When they move like thrown knives. All of this should feel wrong. Physics says weight makes flight hard. Oxygen says size has limits. Evolution says complexity takes time. But the Jurassic cuts the line. It fast-tracks designs. It hands apex tickets to bodies that look like paradoxes. And that's the secret buried under museum lights and gift shop toys. The Jurassic didn't ask permission. It made monsters anyway. The oxygen paradox of life and death. Here's the engine behind the madness: oxygen. Not just more. Much more. A world breathing deeper than ours. Imagine air that feeds muscle like fuel injection. Every heartbeat delivers a richer mix. Lungs pull and the body hums. Sprint longer. Dive deeper. Heal faster. Sleep less. Wake ready. That's what high oxygen does. It sands down limits that ordinarily shaped life's ceilings. Bodies respond. Predators add muscle without paying the cost they'd pay today. Prey grows larger because size buys time. One more step, one more breath, one more chance to make it to the river. In the seas, big lungs and boosted blood chemistry widen the map. You can hunt where others tire. You can turn a narrow margin into a living. But oxygen is a double-edged blade. It feeds fire. A spark doesn't ask for permission in a high-oxygen forest. It leaps. Crowns ignite. Ground fires become tree fires. A breeze becomes a torch. Whole hillsides inhale at once and exhale black smoke. Animals don't just run from flame, they run from the breath of the flame. High oxygen also means bodies must manage a chemical storm inside their cells. Too much of a good thing turns toxic. Organisms need new ways to handle stress, to prevent their own metabolism from burning them out. That means systems evolve under pressure, efficiency becomes survival. So the paradox is brutal and elegant. The atmosphere builds giants, and then tests them with a world that burns. It grants power, and demands payment in risk. And don't forget the chain reactions. More oxygen, more plants, more fuel for fire, more ash, more minerals washed into seas, sudden booms and busts in marine life. Ecosystems cycle through feast and famine. Populations surge, then crash. Predators ride that chaos like surfers riding unpredictable swells. Some become experts at abundance. Others become artists of scarcity. This is the part that breaks neat narratives. Biology isn't a straight line. It's a heartbeat. Rise. Fall. Rise. Fall. The Jurassic is the loudest beat in a long time. And if the atmosphere is the drummer, the band is huge. Every leaf, every gill, every lung is playing along. Listen closely and you can hear it in the fossils. The story of a planet that turned the oxygen dial past comfortable and watched life go wild. But nothing that intense lasts forever. And the bill always arrives. The extinction that nearly erased them. Ask most people about extinctions and you'll hear two stories. The Great Dying, at the end of the Permian, and the asteroid that ended the age of dinosaurs. Between them lies a shadow. A die-off that doesn't headline textbooks, but it should. Hidden in the Jurassic record is a crash that nearly edits these monsters out of history. Imagine reading Earth like a library. Each layer of rock, a book. Each page, a season set in stone. You turn from page to page and notice the same characters, fish, ferns, shells, teeth. Then, abruptly, silence. Familiar shapes vanish from the story. The next pages are thinner. Simpler. Something has blacked out a chapter. What did it? The suspects are many, and they don't alibi each other. Volcanic winters are one answer. Eruptions big enough to paint the sky. The sun dims behind ash. Temperatures dip. Seasons lose their rhythm. Plants go hungry for light. Food chains shorten like snapped ropes. A hunter that once chased shadows under a green canopy now finds a pale, quiet world. The edge it relied on? Gone. Another answer is the sea turning traitor. Oceans don't have to boil to kill. They can simply stop breathing. Currents shift, the water stratifies, oxygen fails to reach the depths, and the deep becomes a black, sleeping giant. Animals drift into those bodies of water and do not return. The evidence hides in dark shales, layers laid down in places where life suffocated in slow motion. And then there are the vanishings that don't pin neatly to a single cause. Fossil lines that break like a dropped thread. Whole predator groups blinking out between layers without an obvious smoking gun. As if the stage lights cut at once, while the play is mid-scene. Maybe that's the point. Maybe it wasn't one bullet. Maybe it was a crossfire. Volcanoes coughing the sky dark. Fires sweeping oxygen-rich forests. Rains turning soils caustic. Rivers delivering chemical shocks to the coasts. The seas exhausted, giving up their breath. The world wanders into a storm made of storms, and only the most adaptable make it out. We look back and want a single culprit. We crave simple endings. But the Jurassic writes in code. It whispers that endings are mosaics, pieces snapping together at the worst possible moment. And in that mosaic lies a more unsettling idea. What if the last piece didn't come from Earth at all? Shadows of cosmic influence. Lift your eyes from the rocks to the sky. The story of life is written there too, on orbits and dust trails, on rays that cross the darkness, on the slow drift of our solar system through different neighborhoods of the galaxy. Consider asteroids. Not the single, cinematic strike we know from the end of the Cretaceous, but showers. A bad decade in space weather. A disrupted belt sends a handful of stones into crossing paths with Earth. Most burn up. Some do not. The ones that hit the ocean do more than splash. They boil local seas, throw salt and steam into the air, and force weather to relearn its rules. You don't need a bullet to the head to fall. 1,000 cuts do the job. And radiation? It doesn't need a crater to leave a mark. Cosmic rays slip through the atmosphere like whispers through a wall. They alter DNA. They tip the scales of mutation. Over centuries, that's not noise, it's pressure. Bodies are asked to adapt more quickly, in the middle of climate lurches and food chain whiplash. Many can't. Then there's the choreography of Earth itself. Small changes in the planet's tilt, wobble, and path around the sun. The angles decide where heat goes. The timing decides whether seasons sync with life or work against it. In a precarious world, a slight drift can pull threads loose. We see hints of cosmic meddling in unusual places. Iridium in the wrong layers. Spherules frozen in time where they shouldn't be. Sudden geochemical signatures that feel like fingerprints on the glass. None of this means the sky alone pulled the trigger. But it might have loaded the gun. And it might have handed it to a planet already shaking from within. In that view, the Jurassic's hidden extinction becomes a collaboration. Volcanoes cough. Atmosphere surges and dips. Oceans go still where they should be breathing. And from above, a scattered rain of insult and injury, visible and invisible, arrives on schedule. Life hangs on by learning new tricks fast. Some lines bend. Most break. The monsters we met in the earlier chapters? Many go dark here. The stage empties. The lights stay low for a long time. And somehow, some things refuse to leave. The beasts that shouldn't have survived. The curtain lifts, and the survivors are not who you'd cast. Not the tallest. Not the flashiest. Not the kings with crowns of bone and teeth like knives. Survival has different taste than glory. Crocodilians slip through the crack first. They are patience given a body. Low-slung, armored, eyes like coins floating at the waterline. They do not need speed when surprise is better. They do not need constant meals when a single ambush can feed a week. Eggs buried in earth. Young born into the school of stillness. They outlast everything because they burn low and strike hard. Sharks glide next in the procession. Cartilage instead of bone. Buoyancy as a lifestyle. A nose that reads electricity. Rows of teeth that replace themselves. A conveyor belt of hunger. They do not require complicated parenting. They do not demand intricate habitats. They are function distilled. A design that can ride out famine, bloom, famine again. In the shallows and forests, the small inherit the earth in their quiet way. Insects with ancient blueprints find modern uses for old tricks. Wings that fold like origami, mandibles that cut, shells that lock. In a world of fire and flood, it pays to be numerous, fast to grow, quick to hide. They become the glue of ecosystems even when the big players keep collapsing. What does this tell us? That power in one age becomes liability in another. That a body built for a narrow throne falls when the room changes shape. That the throne itself is an illusion. Living fossils, we call the survivors. But that phrase misses the point. They aren't still because time forgot them. They are still because their strategy is a deep root. The river floods and dries and floods again, and the root holds. When you look into the eyes of a crocodile today, you are seeing the Jurassic stare back at you. When a shark circles in green water just beyond clarity, you're looking at a debt the oceans never stopped paying. The world tried to erase the age of horror. These creatures kept a copy of the file. They shouldn't be here. And yet they are. As if the planet kept a memory alive on purpose. A reminder carved in flesh. This is what endures when endings come. But the reminder cuts both ways. Because the patterns that made that old world are not gone. The forbidden mirror to today. Now we look at the present. Not to panic. To compare. The air warms. Currents shift. Storm tracks redraw themselves. We are living through a climate that doesn't hold still. Oceans are changing in ways that echo the old story. In some places, oxygen is draining from the water column, zones of silence growing like bruises. Fish leave if they can. If they can't, they thin. Coral reefs bleach, recover, bleach again. The resilience that seemed infinite shows its edge. On land, fires learn new languages. Seasons stretch and blur. Sparks find fuel where they used to die. We watch crown fires leap like they did in a richer oxygen world and wonder why this looks familiar. Because it is. Not identical. But rhyming. Predator maps redraw themselves as prey moves. Sharks patrol new lines. Crocodilians find brackish estuaries where cities light the banks at night. Insects take advantage of microclimates we create without meaning to, warmer corners, damp cellars, urban heat islands. Small changes become invitations. No, we are not in the Jurassic. But echoes don't need to be perfect to deliver a message. The forbidden part of the mirror is simple. If instability favors opportunists, then instability is their season. The world does not have to breed brand new monsters to become monstrous. It can simply give old designs the stage again, efficient hunters, patient ambushers, flexible feeders. The kind that wait while other species panic. And if oxygen fluctuates in certain niches? If coastal dead zones expand on one side while algal blooms enrich others? If fires recycle nutrients in pulses across a continent? Those are conditions in which size, speed, stealth, and endurance are reforged. Not in a straight line. Not overnight. But remade in the same workshop that worked before. So scientists warn, measured words hiding sharp edges, that we may be entering an age where the rules bend. Where extreme conditions create extreme responses. Where the line between adaptable survivor and apex problem gets blurry. That is the forbidden mirror. We look into it and see not a prophecy of dinosaurs marching down highways, but a planet adjusting, relentlessly, toward whatever works best in chaos. And apex predators, old and new, are very, very good at chaos. If the Jurassic taught us anything, it's this. Earth doesn't mind horror. It only minds imbalance. And it will build whatever it needs to correct it. A cosmic warning. Bring the threads together. Volcanic worlds. Oxygen turned up past comfortable. Oceans that breathe, then hold their breath. Skies that sometimes rain stone. Predators sculpted by pressure. Extinctions that don't come with trumpet fanfare, just a slow turning of pages until you notice the characters you loved are gone. The Jurassic is not a legend. It's a playbook. It says the planet is fragile and ruthless at the same time. Fragile, because small nudges can tilt great systems. Ruthless, because once the tilt begins, it does not pause for sentiment. It also says we are not alone in our influence. The cosmos participates. Sometimes with a grain of metal that finds the wrong path. Sometimes with a silent rain of radiation that passes through bone and leaves no crater to mourn. Sometimes with a gentle change in light that, over decades, moves rain from one coastline to another and calls it fate. Here's the part that bites. If those conditions align again, if oxygen dances, if climates lurch, if cosmic weather gets loud, Earth will not hesitate. It will build monsters again. Not the same bodies, but the same idea, apex designs engineered by stress, sharpened by scarcity, perfected by time. And it will do it with what's available now. Crocodilians in new ranges. Sharks at new coasts. Predators you've never heard of mastering the edges between human habitat and the wild. Insects that carry not just stings, but shifts, in crops, in forests, in food chains we thought were ours to arrange. The Jurassic whispers a warning in two languages, stone and star. Stone says, remember what the planet can become. Star says, remember you live in a system much larger than your weather. We can listen. We can learn to read the signs early. We can treat stability not as an entitlement, but as a craft. Because the monsters aren't the point. The conditions that make them are. The Jurassic wasn't just history. It was a reminder that Earth does not belong to us. It never did. We walk here during an intermission between acts. A quiet scene. A calm set. But backstage, the props are still there. The oxygen dial, the volcano switch, the cosmic spotlight searching for the stage. Maybe that's why the universe feels so empty. Maybe it's not empty at all. Maybe it's quiet because it remembers what happens when the music starts again. And when it does, will we be the audience? Or the prey?